Hello and welcome once again to Real Talk. I'm Jake.
And I'm Aaron.
And some strange things have been happening around here recently, haven't they?
Yes, strange things have been happening. Also, Stranger Things 2.
A few days ago, Aaron said, "Are we going to do a video on Stranger Things?" And I said, "Yep." I hadn't watched them yet.
Yeah, you had to watch them. Really
had to watch them all at once.
Yeah, have you done that?
Yes, I've watched them all now.
That's really convenient.
What a roller coaster ride!
Yes, a roller coaster. What roller coaster would you compare it to?
You know that dragon one that just kind of goes up a bit and then comes back down.
The baby ride. At
the baby roller coaster that just goes like that. It's really
I think I'd compare it to the Smiler. Parts of it really good, and then parts of it sometimes
you get stuck upside down.
Someone does something stupid and you end up with your fucking legs cut off. Now at the end of season 1, we see a very cryptic scene at the end of it where Hopper is in the woods. All that we know is that 11 killed the Demogorgon, disappeared, and we're like, oh, the Demogorgon's dead. She must be dead.
I very much assumed that she was dead.
Comes to season 2, and what we learn is that 11 went into the Upside Down, which could have been suspected.
Yeah.
And then very, very quickly, within the space of roughly 2 minutes...
Even less than that.
Went like this, did like, thing, and just fought our way back through. Literally like, I'm alive, literally 2 seconds later, killed that thing, thought I was dead. No, I'm here, like 5 minutes later. But by that time, everyone's left the school.
It was so easy for her to just come back into the real world.
It was incredibly easy.
I think that is just a massive,
It's just plot convenience.
It's like horrible.
It's because, for me, they thought to themselves, oh, right, we'll get 11 out of it, and then that'll be like a thing, like she's out of the plot, and maybe like it'll be whether she comes back in the next series or not.
Yeah.
But then they quickly thought to themselves, no, she's a main character, we need to get her back in the mix as quickly as possible. So
I think they shouldn't have had her.
So what they did,
season.
I feel like they sort of retcon things, right? And here's how they sort of got away with the retcon, and it makes no sense. Now, Hopper, for no reason at all, he has no inclination that she's alive. He literally does not know that she's alive at all. He has no idea. But for no reason at all, he's going out to the woods and he's putting Eggo waffles in a storage container in the woods. The random ass woods. He has no idea that she's alive. And his best thoughts are, if she's alive, she'll be in the woods, she'll find this storage container, this random box that's just here, and she'll find the Eggo waffles I'm putting in here. Bullshit. That's... What the fuck? What logic is that? That's appalling. It's utter plot convenience. It's like they just can't think of any other way to get them together. So they literally just come up with this appalling story. And then, the beauty of this is, they do this thing where it's like, obviously, I'm a massive advocate of show, don't tell, but they do this awkward thing where she's already living in his house, so the end of the first episode is like, oh, Eleven's alive, Hopper, oh god, they're living together in the woods, this is wacky, and it's like a fun little ending to the episode. And then we get these really shit flashbacks that explain this bullshit explanation, because they must have been thinking, oh, we'll have to explain this somehow, and it's like... They tell it through these flashbacks, and it's just like, in this case, just tell, don't show, because it's so stupid. Just tell it, and I'll fill in the blanks with something that thinks more logical than this.
If they wanted to show it, they should have had an entire episode showing how 11 got out of the
and make like a big deal of it, make it a journey, make it so that Hopper's contacting her or something, or like some way that, build something up. Because Hopper putting some Eggos in a random box in the woods makes no fucking sense. Hopper and Eleven's relationship's really, really cute, and we see basically all of 5 minutes of it. We see some really nice, cute scenes, and then basically, it's the second episode. Hopper's like, it's Halloween, you can't go out, But don't worry, kiddo, I'll come back, we'll have a great Halloween, we're gonna eat all this candy. And she's like, promise? And he's like, yeah, promise. Like, we're promising. It's like, 11 loves her promises. She feels very strongly about promises. We know that from the previous season. Nice little play about that. Hopper fucks up. She's at home alone. she doesn't really seem to give a shit because she's actually not like, where's Hopper? And there's no like sequence where she's like getting really annoyed or anything.
Yeah, it's kind of just when he
Yeah,
gets
it's like
back.
sort of like she's actually preoccupied or something, and then he gets back and she's a bit annoyed. And then Hopper's like absolutely livid and like
I think the scene where Hopper goes absolutely berserk is so overplayed.
yeah, really, which is
Like,
mad.
he's
Like
literally
she's just like she's done something. She's like, "What are you doing, you idiot? Don't leave ever." And he's like screaming in her face. He's giving it absolutely everything. He's just like, never leave.
He's throwing books at her.
Yeah. She's like, I hate you. He's like, I hate you. He's like screaming like an absolute maniac. And you're like, fuck me, these guys have got so much like history and chemistry. But he's like, no, there was like nothing's happened really. Nothing's really going on. Also, so it really makes a massive, massive deal that if Eleven leaves, evil people will find her and they will ruin her life. They'll chain her back up and experiment on her again. They will like absolutely ruin her. It's made a massive deal of that this is a thing.
Yeah.
That like and Hopper. That's why we think Hopper is so mad because he sees her as his daughter. He doesn't want to lose her like he lost Sarah.
Yeah.
As he explains in the last one of the nice scenes of the show in the finale, he sort of explains why he was so angry and all that sort of stuff. Even though it was still way over the top, but he sort of explains it, and I can get what they're trying to do, which is a bit shit. But basically, there's like tripwires and stuff, and she's just like, nah, that's it. You know what? I'm sick of this. In like literally a couple of episodes, she's like, you know what? I've been staying in this fucking woods for too long, even though we've not seen any of this. But she's like, I've been here too long, and I'm leaving. It's been too long. So she starts heading out. She sees this random family in the woods, and then fucks them off. Then sees a really awkward scene where Mike, you know, the classic cliche where romance walks in, sees them kissing someone else, and then gets really angry and does like a fun thing, and it was shit. And then she comes back.
Like, even when she sees Mike with this other girl, it makes it out as if that's gonna, like you say,
be a thing. Like she'll be a love interest sort of maybe to Mike. It
really,
happen.
she's just like later on she says hi to her and she's just like blanks her.
Yeah,
and that's all that happens.
And they literally like the only little nod to it all. It's such a waste of time. That whole thing of her leaving. Because then, of course,
and
like
it makes it out like Mike is also going to become friends with this new character.
It also makes it
doesn't
also makes it out like what's going to happen is Hopper gets that phone call where the guy's like, "Couple of people seen this Russian girl. I think there's something in this." And then Paul Rice is like, "What's going on?" sort of thing. Like, and he's like, "Don't worry, just police shit. Gotta go do some police shit." And Rice is looking a bit like, I wonder what he's up to. And then there's no scene where it's like, haha, we knew you were keeping her and we've got her again. There's nothing like that. It doesn't happen like that at all. It's almost as if someone was half writing the series and they're like, I've got this great sequence where Eleven has to stay with him, but then she breaks his rules and then it all comes crashing down around her and Hopper has to save her from the experiment, and these guys are real bad guys. I've come up with this whole episode and this guy's like, you know what, cancel all of that. I know we filmed it, but here's a new direction we're going to go in. And just like, what's Eleven going to do during this period of time, because I wrote this thing for her. Here's what she can do. She can get a really quick bus to her mum's. It's really easy for her to get. She leaves. Not only does she leave the fucking flat, she goes to a different city.
She hitchhikes to her mum's.
She hitchhikes, getting buses all over the place. She's literally like so worldly all of a sudden. Despite the fact that the only place she's ever lived were in Mike's basement and Hopper's evil fortress in the woods that he's got barbed wire all around and shit. Those are the only two places she's ever got, and she's suddenly just like, what's hitchhiking? Hitchhiking? Thumbs up, like Greyhound bus pass, tickets, like, you know what? How does she know how to do all this shit? Currency, dollars, money, value of distance to here. Like, what? She's suddenly like, just because of her mind powers. It's like she's literally mind powered her way onto Wikipedia. She's suddenly like, I'm a fucking genius and I know everything now. Don't worry about it. I can get around by myself.
There's a thing that I like to call the quantum of solace technique.
Elaborate upon said technique.
That is where you get a bunch of characters. They're in an intense car chase.
Okay. Yeah.
But all of these characters, you know nothing about them.
Okay,
you don't know who's being chased. You don't
Why
know
the
who's
chase is
chasing
happening.
who. Why the chase is happening. And then the scene just ends, and you're just like, why the fuck do I even care what's going on in this scene? And that is exactly the same as what happens in Stranger Things 2, the very first scene.
Are you saying that's the opening scene to Quantum of Solace?
Yeah.
Like a random car chase?
Yeah, and then basically M just rings up James Bond and she's like, James, you have to get that car. They have the knock list from Mission Impossible 2. You remember that? Yeah. It's got the names of all our agents.
From Mission Impossible 2? Is that what she said?
Yeah. No.
That's a right Easter egg. I've never noticed that before.
So come episode 7, which I think you said was your least favourite.
Yeah, least favourite, I'd say.
We get to actually meet these characters finally.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, it was just the most pointless episode ever.
Yeah,
it was just
really,
nothing interesting happened.
It's not only the worst episode of Stranger Things by a large country, not just a country mile, because I think that's a specific distance, but a fucking massive, several of them basically, lots of country miles. However specific that distance is, not 100%. But yeah, it was absolutely terrible. It's one of the worst episodes of television I think I've seen in a long time. It was, not only was it a waste of time in a series that has 9 episodes, so and a huge plot with several characters to juggle, so it has no time to waste basically. But not only does it waste time, it also is fucking horrendous at the same time. So the episode has an awful sequence where Eleven is being taught. She's like, use your powers. Everything that ever made you angry, remember it. And Eleven's like, and it's like a training, like an where it's like, you don't know how to control your powers. I'm going to teach you sort of thing. And it's literally like, we learnt nothing. It wasn't like Eleven's like, do you know how you can actually control your powers? It wasn't like Eleven's powers were out of control and she needed to control them. It was just a thing that they added in there just so it felt meaningful at the end that 11 had done it.
Yeah.
Like, there was no new... It didn't explore the power in any way. There was no sort of like, did you know you can do this with your powers?
Yeah.
Did you know your powers could do this?
You could just see everything kind of coming because it hints that the police know, like, where they are by when they drive past. The police are like, that camper van looks familiar or whatever.
Yeah.
But then it doesn't actually show you how the police found out where they were, really. And it just kind of seems like they found
things
they
exactly
found
like,
out,
we just found... The thing was,
plot
convenience.
Plot convenience.
Plot convenience is a massive problem with this whole series, but definitely in this episode.
Yeah.
The characters were dreadful. They were really poor.
Yeah, the
really,
punk characters.
The punk, like, who is this kid? And it's like, I can only deal with 80s reference being like this thing. Oh, it's an 80s reference, 80s movie thing. I can only deal with that shit so much time. These characters were terrible, absolutely appalling. And is it just me, or does she go around and say, "This is such and such. He's our tough guy," or whatever, like the big guy?
Yeah, it was
she's explaining
like
their role.
Back to Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That's absolutely ridiculous. Like, because we know why the main characters refer to themselves as a party and are like, 11's our mage, because they're a bunch of Dungeons and Dragons nerds. That's why they do it. It's cute when they do it. For this little Indian girl and this gang of murderous Chicago street thugs to be like, he's our mage, he's our help, he's our healer. Like, just do that sort of shit. It's literally like, what are you doing? Not everyone refers to their friends like this. There's no context. It's literally the cringiest thing I've ever seen. Yeah. Whoever wrote that episode is literally like a talentless fanboy of the series.
It felt really forced, and I didn't get from the other woman who had powers. I didn't really get the connection with 11.
It's like they had zero chemistry whatsoever.
And I think the most hilarious bit is when she's like,
Sister.
why would she say that? It's so unnatural.
It's really, really poor. It's really, really terrible. Now, do I think that 11 needed to explore her past? And do I think that was needed for her character? No, to be honest with you, I don't think it was really needed for a character. And if it was needed for a character, they did every single part of it was appalling. I thought her going to see her mum was really shit. I thought that was really bad as well.
Yeah.
Like we're seeing this flashback and it's supposed to be like, oh my god, her mother knew, and they just brain zapped her. It's like I could have guessed.
So there are two main new characters in this season.
Yes, there is.
Who I kind of liked, to be honest.
Yeah, I liked real creepy dickhead guy.
Yeah.
And Mad Max.
Who,
those are the two guys.
At first, I thought he was kind of gay, and he
I thought he was going to shag Steve Harrington. Yeah,
I thought he was gay, and he was like trying to hide it.
Yeah, I thought it might have been too much. But then no, he's just a sociopath.
Yeah,
like
basically.
that would have been really cool if he was gay and sort of explained things, because like that's why he's so angry and all that sort of stuff. Plus, it'd have been like a nice way for the show to be like, you know, showing diversity and dealing with like current issues, but back in the 80s. But no, he's just a homicidal maniac.
He does nearly kill.
He
Steve.
almost kills
Is it
Steve. Yeah, he almost kills Steve for no real reason, like literally no reason whatsoever. And he's just basically a deranged lunatic because his dad's a dickhead. His dad even says you're a faggot or something, and like, you know, I'm thinking, it's definitely gonna be that. He's like repressed homosexuality.
Yeah.
And it was never a thing. But instead, you have this really hot scene where he, like, seduces Mike's fit mum, and she's like absolutely gagging for it, and this kid comes around just like, thanks for that. I'll see you around. And it's like, fucking hell, it's coming off the screen, this. Like, Jesus Christ. Yeah, Max is cool. I think she's a good new character. I didn't absolutely love her, but I think they gave her enough material. Like, just enough, you know, sort of like the dickhead brother. Sort of, clearly her parents are a bit fucked up. I thought they gave her just enough material that it was like, it was good that she was okay. I liked a little bit more about the video game stuff and sort of like... And them being a bit more in awe of her, and her being a bit more reluctant to join the party.
Yeah.
Instead of just being like, feeling like she's been lied to. I'd have liked it being a bit more like, I don't want to hang out with you losers, but then sort of actually coming around to it a little bit.
I thought it felt very natural how she like came into the group.
Yeah, I think
The only problem I had with it is how Mike just absolutely hated her.
Well, yeah, but also
and
like,
then her also trying to be friends with Mike.
Yeah.
It just felt a bit.
It felt like
forced,
she liked
finally.
Mike, and then it didn't
But
really
then
go
nothing,
anywhere.
yeah,
And
it didn't
sort
go
of, and then
anywhere.
they do her and Lucas, which made more sense.
Yeah.
So
And it reminded me of It, because in that film the female character is kind of flirting with like multiple characters.
Oh, yeah.
But that actually kind of makes sense. Like the way that movie did it was much better.
Yeah, Lucas is like a really good part of this new series. I really liked his sister. I thought she was hilarious.
Yeah.
Anytime she was on stage, like screen, and when Dustin's doing the code red and stuff, and she's just like, "Shut up." I thought she was a lot of fun, and like that added more. Like Lucas got her and then Mad Max as like two new dynamics for his character.
Yeah.
And it really helped because I thought he was like a really good part of the first season. Even though he was sort of more the character in the group who was most on the back burner, and like all of the stuff he had to do was with the other guys, and whereas he got his own stuff this series. And I thought he was like a really good part of it. Mm-hmm. Far and away the best part of season 2 of Stranger Things is Steve Harrington. Steve Harrington in the first season is sort of like an absolute douchebag who sort of comes good at the end, and then Nancy sort of, in a cross between them both, goes back to what's familiar, and Steve's like, oh, cool, I'm sort of redeemed. But in this season, Steve's like just a great guy all the time. An absolute great guy the whole time. He's got all the good lines, like, he's involved in the main plot the most amount of time of anyone, really. Like, he gets, as soon as he's sort of, like, out of the thing with Nancy, he's right into the main plot, and he's, like, a huge part of it, like, him and Dustin doing shit. Then he's in the great scene at the junkyard, which is one of the best scenes, where all the dogs are coming, and he's, like, beating them off, and he's like the hero of the season, really, Steve Harrington.
Definitely.
Like, and the only thing that's bad about that is that Stranger Things is about the kids.
Yeah.
So to sort of position the cool male lead, actually put him into a position where he is the lead, is sort of a little bit out of Stranger Things a little bit for me.
Yeah.
But he's the best character part of the season by like a mile.
I had a massive problem with the way Nancy was interacting with Steve, because it was almost as if Steve was literally doing nothing wrong.
Yeah.
And it's like, then once again the series sort of hinted at Nancy going back with Will's
Jason, I think it is.
Sorry, is it Will?
Jonathan, yeah.
Will's brother.
Yeah, Will's brother.
Yeah, Will's brother Jonathan. It's always hinting that they're going to get back together, and you know that means Steve's out of the picture. Mm-hmm.
But here's a really good way they could have done this, because we just don't see it, and I think you're right. For the audience, it's a little bit like, oh, she just hates him out of nowhere, really. Like, of course it was hinting that she still had a thing for Jonathan, but her saying that Steve and the relationship's bullshit, just sort of, we'll get her drunk, and she'll just say everything's bullshit, and that'll be her real feelings coming out, and then when he tells her about it, she'll reflect on it and think, maybe I do feel that way. That was how they thought they could do it, right? Here's a far better way to do it. Because another thing that I felt was a problem was Mike and Eleven. Like, Mike and Eleven, it seemed like very much like a friendship in the first series. And now we're going like a year apart. Mike is miserable the whole series. But no one seems to really care. And obviously he's really hung up on Eleven, but no one really seems to be mentioning it. So here's how you do two things at once. You explain how Nancy doesn't want to be with Steve. And here's how you explain why Mike is so, like, forlorn, basically. Why he's so depressed. You have Mike come into Nancy's room, and Mike's like, have you got a sec? Can we talk? She's like, oh, yeah, sure. He's like, I want to talk about girls. And she's like, oh my god, I've been waiting so long for you to ask me about this. You know, like, it's not something Dungeons and Dragons related. And then he's like, if you don't want to talk about it, it doesn't matter. No, come on. What do you want to say? And he's like, how do you know when you like a girl? And she's like, what do you mean? He's like, how do you know when, you like her, sort of thing. And he's sort of trying to explain that he's in love with Eleven.
Yeah.
And that's what's so bad. And she's like, well, when you like a girl, and you're like, well, what about when you're in love? And she's like, well, when you're in love, you feel like this, and you feel like this. And she's talking about, when you're in love with someone, every time you see him, you want to, like, it just excites you, sort of thing. And she's saying all this sort of stuff. And then Mike can be like, was that how you, so like how you feel about Steve? And then she's like, yeah, like how I feel about Steve. Listen, Mike, you need to go right now. How perfect is that? Isn't that just fucking gold?
Genius.
It's fucking genius, isn't it, mate? I'm a fucking genius. That's exactly how you should have written that scene. It achieves both things. You get Mike and Nancy, who just have no screen time, nowhere near enough screen time together to say they're brother and sister.
Yeah. They literally don't talk.
They never talk at all. So exactly the whole season they barely talk at all.
Yeah.
But there is a brother and sister relationship, and in the first season it was sort of like, it was strained, but then they sort of came together at the end to try and like save the day. In this season, I feel like they should have been pushing them a little bit closer together. Nancy and Steve had decent chemistry and things were going well. Then she went with Jonathan, and they embarked on this really awful plot when they're like, hey, we're going to uncover this conspiracy, and we're going to pretend FBI guys come here. They take him to the lab. She records him saying all the shit, plays it to the investigator guy, and he's like, oh, vodka, water, we water it down. It's like what? What are we watching here?
And once again, that never pays off because you see him
see him
at the end,
very end,
and he's like waving at these guys, and none of these guys have anything to do with what has actually happened because they're all dead.
Well, loads of people died at the thing, and then these other guys are just like, well, we were off work that day, but we've lost our job now, you dick. Whatever. Like, who even are the guys? They're not anybody we care about. And then he has this really cringy scene where he's like, I'm guessing that you're the girl who you think you're real nice, but you're doing this and that, and you're the guy, and you're both having the chemistry, but you don't know it's there yet. And he's sort of like, are you fourth walling us, mate? Like, you're sort of explaining what's going on. Like, and it's like a really cringy scene where they must have been writing it thinking this is hilarious. It was shit. It absolutely dreadful.
Will is a phenomenal actor.
Yeah, the kid playing Will did a really good job.
Will is just great.
Will's another highlight. Will is another real highlight of the series. I think he's far and away the most. He's involved in everything right from the beginning. He's got a huge range of shit he's got to try and do. I really like the whole him like. It rolled on from Street season 1 the best. Like, his storyline had momentum at the end of season 1 and rolled with it. He was like more involved. Like, he's not really in season 1 very much, but he's really involved this whole series. He did a great job. Like, I thought the character was really engaging the whole time. Like, you really just you're always rooting for him. I thought the scene with him and Bob in the car was great when he's telling him about like running away from his fears and stuff like that. And like, he's not going to do it. And like,
Bob was a good character too.
Bob was also a really good character. Sean Austin, like, I absolutely love him anyway because I'm just a massive Lord of the Rings fan. But like, he just brought a great like innocence to it. I loved how like the whole thing was like, you're going out with Barb, sort of with Joyce, and she's like, well, yeah, it's like a safe thing. But he's actually a really great guy, and she's sort of like, you know what? I'm in the relationship for the right reasons, and she's sort of like, she grows stronger in the relationship as it goes on, which made his death really, really like, it made it really meaningful.
the bad guys in this were pretty much exactly like
small shit versions of it.
The dogs from Silent Hill.
Yeah, they did look a bit like
they
the
just
dogs
looked
from Silent
exactly
Hill.
like
The whole
the Silent
like
Hill dogs.
the whole like face that comes
Yeah.
off and stuff like that. Yeah, they did. Yeah, the design was just quite uninspired. Like in season 1, you don't really see the monster that much. So when you do see it, even though it's like whoa, you're still coming to terms with what you're seeing. Like, but the design was firmly established for this series, and they didn't mix it up at all. Like the dogs are just very very similar, smaller versions.
That, and also the fact that when in season 1 you got the feeling that there was like different types of creatures and
like
stuff
it wasn't just this one
place.
type.
Like it wasn't this,
yeah,
this
you are
one
right.
thing.
Like it was an alternate reality where anything could exist. Like
exactly.
there's just sort of the feeling.
And to have that as just like, well, there's just now these millions of dogs that for some reason are all the same age because they're all the same size.
And then the Mind Flayer's design is that he's like a giant spider, but then later on he's like wind. And like he's like smoke.
He's like a tornado.
It's like a tornado. So it's sort of like, well, what is it? Like, is he one or the other? Like, he's either a big giant spider or it's like a tornado that's like a viral tornado thing.
When you first see him, he kind of looks solid.
Yeah,
like he's not a smoke monster thing.
And then it's sort of
but
like,
then he kind of goes into smoke.
and he's saying like, oh, it's like a dark shape. It looks like a spider, mate. Like, it looks like a big spider. Like no one says it's a big spider. It looks like a big spider.
Yeah.
Like that's what it looked like.
I love the 80s style of the series and everything, but the problem with that is, you know what they didn't have in the 80s?
What, mate?
CGI dogs.
Well, yeah, all right, I guess.
Hundreds of CGI dogs just like climbing up walls and
I think
stuff
you bring
like
a really good point round.
The CGI was just really bad.
It was a bit shitty, wasn't it?
Do you remember a few scenes where people were in the upside down and they were running down corridors like in the school and stuff?
Yeah.
Will specifically, I think. He was like running away from the big smoke monster, and there was all the stuff on the walls in the school. It was literally like as if he had been, which I'm sure
really
he had
really
badly green screened into that. Really? It's meant to be an 80s throwback, and I just think how much better would it have been if we'd have had some practical effects.
Well, yeah, I know what you're sort of saying, but not everyone can do it. Not everyone can bloody be the thing, mate. You can't have, this is why those movies are so cherished, because those effects were so good. Still got to be cost effective. I do know what you're saying, and of course,
even
I'm
for
not
like
say animatronics and shit won't be good.
Even for like the little D'Artagnan or whatever he's called.
D'Artagnan, mate. Yeah.
D'Artagnan.
They're called Dart.
Yeah, Dart. Even for Dart, like the little lizardy thing that they find, it's like they could have easily done a little.
Yeah, but do you know what they could? Do you know what was easier than that? What was even more easy? Doing
CGI.
The CGI thing.
Well, I know it was
CGI
easy.
Thing.
I know it was easy.
It was easier to do that, mate. It was just easier to do it. There was never a bit where you're like, oh, I'll tell you what they should do. There's never a bit like that because the characters always know more than the audience.
Yeah.
Like, there's never a bit...
Because they just have the Dungeons and Dragons handbook.
Like, everything that happens. And for some people, I think that people enjoy this. Some people, like to just be taken on a ride. I think with something like this, you like to be given something where you're like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. Oh, I bet they're going to do that. And then even if they don't do it, it's like, that's fair enough. Because, obviously, a show can do anything. But it never gives you anything where you can make guesses on what's going to happen. Obviously, at Dart, you were like, yeah, he's obviously going to turn into a monster and he's going to be like a bad thing. That was predictable from the start because it's just like Gremlins or whatever.
The biggest problem with this is when Bob comes in, he sees the map.
Problem, this.
And no one knows it's a map, but he just literally goes, oh, well, this is a map, and this is here. And then he just looks across the other end of the room, and he's like, well, that must be there.
Yeah, he's running round. And
it
like,
just makes
he
no
knows,
sense.
Like, we haven't seen a map of anything earlier for us to be like, oh, I bet it's the town, or I bet this is a map, or I bet this is something. It's literally, the character comes in, and he's just telling you what these things are.
Yeah.
Also, characters with plot armor. When Hopper gets attacked and you're thinking, oh, fucking hell, he's in the Upside Down world. He's made a really stupid error by just going into this hole blindly.
It was very stupid.
Then he gets, proper fucked up and he's literally in this thing for hours. And it's like, they get there and he's just like, you got here just in time. And it's like...
Yeah. There's no explanation as to how long he has actually been there. We have no clue.
We have no real... It feels like forever. It was a whole episode.
Yeah, the time frame between him being strangled by the vines and them getting there could be any amount of time.
It could be any amount of time. Like, literally, it could be ages.
And also, just before that, he puts a bandana on his face like that. And then poison squirts at him and he's just like... whatever, And then literally the very next scene with him, he just doesn't have the bandana on there anymore.
He's not
and it's like, why would the character do that?
Plot armor, like, not going to die anytime soon. Certainly not going to die in episode 4, and not to this technical bullshit.
He knew that. That's why he took the bandana off his face.
But it's really bad what that happened, because it undermines the villain massively. They just, literally, a load of army guys come in, burn some shit, take him away, and Will's like, oh, it hurts me as well. That's all we learned from it. But it's like, him just surviving for ages completely undermines what the villain's capable of. Yeah. This is a dirty, poisonous hellhole, and he's just survived being strangled by tentacles and infested. Like, easily, he's just back out of it, like, vomits a bit, and it's fine.
The poison didn't even seem to do anything.
Poison, there was no, like, he's not in hospital for ages. Yeah. He's not like, I'm totally out of action for a while.
We need some sort of vaccine for this.
And it's just completely undermined what, like, the villain. So the massive thing that we're trying to fight, it's literally not even a big deal. Like, it's not even done up to him.
Just poison some pumpkins.
Exactly.
The final episode when they go back into the lab.
Yeah.
And I knew right from the start that scientist guy was going to be alive.
Yeah, of course he was going to be alive.
He's like, he's sat in a corner somewhere.
Bleeding.
He's just got a tiny wound on his leg, just like, oh.
Like, how long has he been there for? How long have they been gone for?
Let's just think about this logically as to what might have happened. Those dogs that were literally ripping everyone to shreds,
and were
killing
all
them,
over the place,
yeah. They saw the scientist guy and they were just like, had a bit of a nibble, and then just went.
What I presume happened is he's tried to flee.
Yeah.
One of them's caught up with him, is in a dangerous battle with it, right? Ends up, like, wounding the monster fatally, but it wounds him to the point where he can no longer move on, and he's probably going to die, right? And the dog then walks off screen and maybe dies in a corner somewhere, right?
Okay.
And then no other dogs find him, and he's just in an open stairwell.
Do you not think that was important information to convey to the audience?
Well, no, but what I'm telling you is stupid. Like, the plot I'm explaining, that makes no sense. Where are all the other dogs? How come he's just on an open... It's not like he's locked in anywhere, or like they hear him. It's not like he's like, help, he's still alive. Like, there's nothing like that. He's like on an open stairwell, just bleeding, like, nice to see you to drop in. So,
And then the guy's just like, oh, well, yeah.
Plot.
You can let Elle go free now.
Doesn't give a shit to him. It's not like.
Thanks for advancing the plot, scientist.
He's not like, hey, doc. He's literally like, hey, some plot stuff that's gonna come up at the end of the show. I need you to know about it now. So at the very end, it doesn't seem like we just tacked it on. The show is trying to move characters all over the place, and it's juggling with a lot of people, and it does a terrible job of it. Eleven's on the bus, we've mentioned that already, she's all over the place. There's a scene where they're all at the lab, right? So they're trapped in the lab.
Yeah.
All the shit's going down, and the kids get to the lab, and they're like, hey, we need to go to the lab, because that's where the centre of it all is or something. Like, the kids end up going, and it's somewhat plausible why the kids end up going.
The other ones go there, Nancy and Jonathan, because Jonathan goes into his house, sees all the chaos the drawings and stuff, and then his line is, he sees the Polaroid thing on the floor, and he's like, someone else has been here. He doesn't comment. He doesn't comment on the huge drawing that's all over the house. He just sees this Polaroid thing on the floor, and he's like, I don't use Polaroid. Someone else must have been here. And from that, he gathers that they're all at the lab.
Polaroid camera. That's not mine. Let's go to the lab. What?
That is literally
It's a massive jump. Like, why does he just go there? And it's just so convenient to get them all there, so they can literally just be like. But even then, right? These characters are being wasted.
Yeah, because they're not doing
anything. They're just stood outside, so at the end, they can then all be reunited at the end. They just stood outside, literally just dusting, like, I'm trying to open a gate. And it's like, what on earth is going on here? Literally every character wasted. 7 major characters, all wasted, stood outside a gate. Absolute waste of everyone's time. Like, why couldn't they have been doing anything else at that moment in time? Like, just such a waste.
So obviously Will is a spy, as they call it, and he knows where they are, so they have to put him to sleep. And then their idea is to find a hiding place, so that Will doesn't know where they are.
Genius, because he knows.
Genius plan.
He'll tell the monster otherwise, and then he'll send the dogs.
So then the dogs will know where they are. So the hiding place they think of is Will's house.
I know the only place. Take him to the house. The only place anyone can go is Will's house. Because none of the other parents can ever be involved in any of this for no real reason whatsoever.
And then they like put tin foil.
Yeah, they made it so that no one would know what shed it was.
Yeah, they disguised the shed basically. I mean, it's real solid snake shit.
Oh yeah, and then Will's like, where am I? Right, and I'll tell you another thing that just happened there as well. Right, so like Will's doing the Morse code and they're telling him all these emotional stories. That could have been character development. It wasn't. We'd never heard these stories before. We'd never heard them. So like there were incidents we had never even known about. So there weren't any like personal moments. You know, like there wasn't like, remember last year when 11 turned up and we did everything we could to find you, and then, you know, like there was nothing that that resonated with us. They were just telling stories that we'd never heard, so it could have been anything. Like, and then, you know, there was some good acting there, but there was nothing like, I wish we'd have been more. It'd have been more for the audience to be more emotionally invested in that scene. But like at the end of it, once they've done all this shit, like Will sort of like hears the phone ringing. And they're like, ripping out of the wall. It's like they're super paranoid. And he's like, boom. And he's like, he starts doing this thing, and they're like, he's sending a message. He's doing spy things. He's doing the spying. And like, just like, and then they just fucking, knock him asleep again.
Before that, they're just like, it could have been anyone's phone. Yeah. It's like, well, yeah, it could have been, but obviously he knows something. Immediately just like removes any doubt that he knows where they are. Yeah.
But then like, so you're thinking, fuck, like he knows where they are. Like that's really bad. Except it isn't. He doesn't send any dogs there.
Well, he sends one dog.
Which
immediately dies because
he sends one dog. Yeah, you are right. Elle throws it through the window. Yeah, you are right.
But
actually,
that's the most bizarre thing ever. Is he sends one dog?
Why would he say one dog? You right? That's so stupid. He's like, I know where they all are. The only people who can stop my master plan. One dog will suffice. You go get them, dog. Like what? It's so stupid. It's so stupid. I thought, fuck me, they're in real trouble. They're going to have to get out of there. Maybe a chase with all these dogs. Like, nope, just one dog. The rest will just stay chilling. Just send the one. Send the one dog. Well, heaven kills it. Don't send any more after that. Just no need. Literally no need. So the whole thing of him figuring it out was pointless. Like, it didn't... Because the monster had no plan for what would happen if he did figure it out. He just sent a dog and like, you go kill every single person. It was bad. It was a bad idea to possess him, really. Ultimately, it served the monster no purpose whatsoever to possess Will.
Yeah.
Even though he seemed obsessed with him, the monster's plot was just to kill everyone with the dogs and take over. It had nothing to do with Will. So why was it so hell-bent on possessing him? We need to get the monster out of Will. And then... they're just like, how do we do that? That's what we've been trying to do this whole time. And it's like, the window's open. He said he likes it cold. I've got a plan. Turn all the heaters on. And Will's just like, no, let me go. And then she's like, conflicted. There's a really cringy thing where she's like, turns the heaters up higher.
And then, hilariously... what was the girl's name? I always forget her name. Nancy. She grabs a hot poker and literally stabs him. No, she don't just burn him. She stabs him with the hot poker.
Like, here's the poker.
And he's bleeding and everything.
Is he bleeding? I don't think he was bleeding.
There's blood coming out.
I'm almost certain. I don't know if there's blood.
No, there is.
I thought it was just burning, but it's still bad enough. Definitely burns him.
And the thing is, like, it doesn't show you where she actually stabbed him. Like, she could have done real damage.
Well, exactly. Like, the whole thing's really dramatic. Like, the whole, like, but the thing is, all I've got before that, like, I just like, turn this halogen heater, turn it to max, turn it up. It's like, you know, like, it's not enough. It's too much. It's too much. Like these heaters that you've got wrong. The window's open. I was like, a lovely breeze. It looks like fucking November.
They're all sweating.
It looks like December. They're all like, it's red hot. The window's broken. It's not like it's this absolute sweat locker.
Yeah, because earlier Elle smashed all the windows. She smashed it
all. It wasn't like, and it looked like it was winter. It was like, well, it was November because it had just been Halloween, so it must be pretty cold. Like, wouldn't you have gone somewhere with a bit more enclosure? Like, turning a bunch of halogens on in winter, you'd still be alright.
I didn't even think of that, actually.
It's so stupid. I'm like, the window's open when I'm watching it. But then, you know, like, they're literally, like, sort of, like, stoking the fire. Like, get it harder! Get it harder! Again, this sums up a major problem with the series, in that this scene could have been used for real character development. You had an opportunity to drive a wedge between Nancy and Jonathan, an opportunity of for Joyce to realise that potentially it was worth killing Will to get this monster out of there. You know, the decision over using the hot poker could have been a real turning point for Nancy. Like, suddenly, I'm committed to doing anything. Was she the right person to do that? Could it not have been Joyce? Could it not have been Jonathan? What attachment has Nancy got to Will that she's willing to burn him with a poker? It felt a bit like...
It seemed completely out of nowhere to me.
It seemed a bit like, whoa, let's just calm it, Nance. Like, you know, I mean, yeah, he was choking Joyce, but, like, at the same time, like, it could have been another character using that, you know, like, it didn't have to be Nancy. Like, I just felt like her involvement in the scene was a bit tacked on, and then to give her something to do, she's the one dealing the fatal blow. When people are saying this is the best show of all time, are people just forgetting? Do people just watch it and they're literally like, every little new moment, they just, oh, this is fun. I forget everything else. I forget everything else that ever happened. I just forget what happened the rest of the show. I don't need any context to what I'm seeing. I just need the fun action, the wacky action that I'm seeing, and that's all I need. Why do people not need any context?
I want to talk about the final scene because, in my opinion, it is like the best scene.
Yeah, the best scene by a mile.
It's like the very last scene
good.
is the best scene.
Good.
Because it's
everything that's good about Stranger Things.
All the characters come together, and it's like character development, like funny lines.
Everything that's good about Stranger Things is in that last scene.
I cannot believe that it's like all saved for that last scene.
I think what frustrates me the most about this is it's not even like I'm trying to criticize a bad TV show. Like, God, this show's just so bad. It isn't like that. When Stranger Things is good, it's really, really good. Like, I love that they're young characters, they're kids, but they're swearing. Like, you know, these are realistic young characters. They're acted by tremendous young actors who really get the characters and know exactly what they're doing with them. And, like, you know, they really make it seem like all these characters could be mates and everything. Like, they do a great job bringing the world to life. Mm-hmm. It has, like, fun 80s cliches, but the characters still seem relatable. They're not just like total cliches of like that whole period.
Yeah.
Like, we can relate to what's going on. Like, when Stranger Things is good, it's really good. And yeah, certainly no better moment than like the finale of season 2, where they're at the dance. You've got the great scene where Nancy dances with Dustin, and Dustin's done his hair from Steve Harrington telling him the Farrah Fawcett thing. Like, that's just great stuff. It builds on a scene that was just like a little moment earlier, but far away one of the best scenes. Like, Dustin and Steve's whole interaction is just like one of the stronger parts of the series, because you've got characters not just talking about plot the whole time.
Yeah, that's what it was mainly lacking, is no character development, just plot development.
Just total plot development the whole time. You know, Mike's character starts at one point and he doesn't get anywhere else until the very end. He starts depressed because Eleven's dead. And he doesn't change the whole series
until 11 walks through the door in the final
scene.
They've
got the one scene with Will, I think, where he's like, well, we'll be alone together, and they sort of have like a nice, cute scene, and like they're talking. That is literally the only scene he has. Do you know think Mike's the main character? Well, don't forget that Mike is the main. They
try to make him
Mike is the main character from the first series, and he's got nothing to work with in season 2. Like, literally nothing.
For season 3 to impress me, it will basically have to massively expand how we see the Upside Down, and explain a bit more about what types of creatures live there, not just like one, you know, ultimate being that controls everything, because I think that's just so, you know,
it's too early for it, isn't it, really?
It's
too early in the mythos to have this ultimate being. So Jake, what would you give Stranger Things season 2 overall?
Out of 10?
Yeah, out of 10.
Probably a 5.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think season 1 I would have give maybe like a 7, 8 out of 10 to. But season 2, I mean, 5. And a very, very mismatched 5. Like, this is not an average piece.
Because if you don't think about it too much, it is an enjoyable ride.
Yeah, definitely. It is really enjoyable. And in certain aspects, you know, we're talking the tone, the soundtrack. Like the soundtrack's like fantastic. I love the 80s songs that were selected for season 2 especially. Some really, really interesting choices and some really good songs that really fit everything that was going on. You know, certain aspects of the show, in certain ways, it's fantastic. But in other ways, in a lot more basic, simple ways, it falls really, really badly short.
What would you give it out of 10, Aaron?
I'd give Stranger Things 2 11 out of 10. No, joking, 5 or less.